Hello students, I am Deepika Bhandari. Today I bring you the next learning episode on behalf of the content writers Dr. G.S. Sodhi and myself on an important unit of paper Crime and Society, that is Theories of Criminal Behavior. In this episode, we will discuss about the different theories of criminal behavior. Here, we will learn about the theories put forth by different schools of thoughts such as the classical theory, the biological theory, the sociological theory, etc. and discuss their principles. We would also acquaint ourselves with the concept of criminal anthropology and the importance of these criminal theories in criminal investigations. This lecture comprises of different modules. Module 1 is Introduction, Module 2 is the classical theory, Module 3 is biological or positivist theory, Module 4 is sociological theory, Module 5 is criminal anthropology, Module 6 is importance of criminal theory, and finally Module 7, which is the conclusion. Dear students, let us begin this episode by discussing the concept of crime. The act of crime is defined as a deviant behavior that violates law and poses the offender for punishment under the court of law. In other words, it disturbs the harmony established in the society. But why do people commit crime? What are the different factors that influence people to indulge into deviant or criminal activity? Different people commit different types of crimes, the severity of which varies among individuals and circumstances. For example, from misdemeanors to violent felonies such as murder or assault. Some individuals become repeated offenders while rest might just indulge in this deviant behavior less intermittently, like shoplifting, etc. Scores of criminologists and scholars from across the world have attempted to build several theories to support this criminal behavior and the different types of factors and situations that might contribute to one's commission of crime. These theories of criminal behavior targets why some individuals commit crimes and their behavior in these situations. Some attribute crime to the individual. They believe that an individual weighs the pros and consequences and makes a conscious choice whether or not to commit a crime. In other words, they hold the individual solely responsible for committing crimes and not their prevailing circumstances. Whereas others believe it is the society's or the community's responsibility to ensure that their citizens do not indulge into deviant behavior or commit crime by offering them a safe and secure environment to live in. Therefore, by understanding why a person commits a crime, one can develop ways to control crime or rehabilitate the criminal. Criminological theories differ in their methods of control. These theories differ in their definitions and explanations of crime and the factors that contributed for the same. Some of the important theories of criminal behavior are listed as shown on your screen. The table number 1 shows the different theories explaining criminal behavior. The theory, the year it was proposed and by whom it was proposed by. First is the classical theory. It was proposed in the year 1764 by Cesare Beccaria. I repeat, by Cesare Beccaria. Second is the biological or biogenic theory, also known as the positivist theory. It was proposed by Lombroso, Ferry, Garofalo, Charles and Goring, Houghton, Sheldon. It was proposed between the years 1876 to 1940. Third theory is of the psychological or psychogenic theory. It was proposed by Goddard, William and Helly, Adler, etc. It was proposed between the year 1919 to 1952. And the fourth theory is of sociological or sociogenic theories. It was proposed by Clifford Shaw, Sutherland, Merton, Cloverd and Ohlin, also Thorsten and Selin. It was proposed between the years 1929 to 1938. Let us begin discussing these theories one by one. Classical theory. The first criminological theory in this episode is the classical theory. The classical theory of crime and their punishments surfaced in the middle of 18th century. The classical school of thought proposed crime as an act that dishonored the social code of conduct. It is harmful to personal safety and property of the individuals in the society. In other words, the classists defined the act of crime as a behavior that violates the social code of conduct, which is unfavorable not to the state directly but to the personal property and the safety of the individual against whom the crime has been committed. The classists rested their focus on the crime or the criminal acts committed by a person and not on the situations or the circumstances prevailing during the commission of crime, nor the factors that inclined the individual to indulge in the felonious act. For the classists, legal definitions of crime are more crucial rather than studying or analyzing the causes or factors behind the act of the crime under question. They therefore believed in strict and harsh punishments for the crimes committed so that the individuals are discouraged from committing the crime again. The classical theory of criminology puts forward four fundamental principles that accentuates their etiology. These are as follows. The rights and freedom of an individual must be secure. Same punishments should be given to all individuals who have committed the same crime. A definite penalty should be attached to each crime and that should invariably be inflicted as crime is a judicial generalization. And lastly, the punishment should be restricted to the social need. Its infliction is necessary so as to prevent others from committing the same crime. The classical theory was put forward by Cesare Beccaria, an Italian thinker who was inspired by the literature of scholars like John Howard. Beccaria, in his Essays on Crime and Punishment, 1764, upheld that human nature is rational, free and governed by self-interest. Social order is based on consensus and social contract. Crime is a contravention of the legal code and not of social norm. Spreading of crime is limited and is to be ascertained through a due process. Crime is caused by an individual's rational motivation. Crimes should be judged by a jury of one's peers, that is, by other rational and equal individuals. The judges should have a guidance of clear and systematic legal code, and lastly, the principle of restraint should be focused while applying any penalty over the offender. That is, imprisonment should be limited to a prior, agreed and fixed set of penalties. The main postulates of Beccaria's classist approach are: a man's behavior is purposive and unbiased and is based on pleasure and pain principle. Penalty should be allotted each crime and the amount of penalty should be dependent upon the injury caused to public welfare by the crime. Pain should outweigh any pleasure resulting from the commission of crime. sentence should not be very severe and deterrent. It should also be proportional to the crime committed, predetermined, prompt and public. Torture should be abolished. More use should be made of imprisonment instead of corporal punishment, and a fair trial should be ensured. Application of law should be rationally applied to all citizens. Courts should only distinguish between innocent and guilty and subsequently mention the set punishment. The classical explanation of crime had some major arguments against their ideology. Some of these were: the classists regarded all men as free, equal and rational. However, if all of them were equal and free, then what influenced them to break the laws and commit crime? The criminals were to be treated as equals without discriminating on the basis of their age or gender or nature and type of crime. In addition, the concept of free will as elaborated in the classical theory lacked any scientific or analytical explanation. The criminologists supporting the classical ideology were more concerned in forming laws and regulatory measures rather than controlling crime or rehabilitating criminals. Therefore, the neoclassist criminologists in the year 1810 and 1819 modified the classical theory of criminology and provided judicial decisions under objective situations and put forth the concept of minimum and maximum punishments. They also highlighted the importance of age, gender, mental health, etc. of the criminal at the time they committed the crime and discarded the concept of equal justice as unreal. Let us now discuss the next criminological theory, that is the biological or the positivist theory. While a proportion of sociologists agreed with the classist approach toward criminals, quite a few firmly believed in using experimental or inductive methods in generalizing the criminals altogether. These were known as the positivists, and they overrode the perception of one's free will in commission of crime as postulated by the classists. The positivists' theories, more often as the biological theories, focused on the biological factors explaining the cause of the commission of crime. This included their physical appearance, genes, or the genetic makeup of the individual, that is, if any genetic anomalies are present in the individual, evident enough to influence one's behavior, the evolutionary factors, role of hormones or the brain structures, etc. These all had a crucial influence on an individual's involvement in criminal activities. Lombroso, Ferri and Geographical were the three major positivists who emphasized the importance of the biological or the physiological incapacity of an individual. In other words, these positivist scholars articulated the role of biogenic, that is, the genetic or the biological factors in an individual's tendency to indulge in criminal behavior. Lombroso, described as the father of criminology, was an Italian physician and professor of criminal anthropology. He gave the theory of evolutionary atavism in 1876. According to him, criminals are a separate group, a group which is sandwiched between modern and primitive humans. He argued that the physical shape of the head and face define a born criminal. To uncover the physical differences or abnormalities, Lombroso studied and calculated the bodies of executed and deceased criminals and examined the living inmates as well. He further alleged to have found a range of bodily features that predicted criminal behavior like long arms, large teeth, ears lacking lobes, lots of body hair, etc. He also identified the characteristics of particular types of offenders. He further postulated that criminals could be differentiated from non-criminals not only in terms of their physical appearance, but could also be distinguished based on the type of crime they committed. Lombroso also believed that the born criminal type was insensitive to pain. In other words, they could go to any extent in inflicting pain on others. Garofalo and Ferri had supported Lombroso for his positivist ideology. In his book Criminology 1885, Garofalo mentioned about physical differences between criminals and non-criminals, where he differed from Lombroso's concept of physical abnormality resulting in criminal behavior and focused on psychic abnormality resulting in a criminal tendency or a deviant behavior. Ferri, another Italian scholar, also supported Lombroso's school of thought. He called Lombroso's atavistic criminal as born criminal. He further classified criminals into following types: insane, habitual, occasional and passionate. Let us learn about these one by one. Insane criminals. These included the criminals who suffered from some or the other form of mental retardation. Habitual criminals. These criminals had acquired or developed the habit of committing crime. Occasional criminals. These criminals committed criminal acts that were insignificant or committed less frequently. And lastly, the passionate criminals. These type of criminals committed crime out of passion, either love or hate. His classification was the closest to that of Lombroso. Sociological theory. As studied in the previous sections, the classical and biological theories focused on the concept of free will or the role of genetic factors in the commission of crime. The sociological theories of crime, however, accentuated the fact that a certain type of deviant or criminal behavior is acquired and conditioned from one's social environment. The sociologists used different aspects in studying the cause of crime. These are the living conditions such as hygiene and pathogenicity, the relationship between crime and social structure of society, the factors by which a person becomes a criminal, the effect of cultural conflicts on crime. These aspects are studied under different theories as mentioned in the table which is shown on your screen. Let us briefly have a look at these. The first is the ecological or delinquency area theory, proposed by Clifford Shaw in the year 1929. This theory attributed crime as a result of the disordered or disturbed neighborhood or unhealthy and pathogenic living environments. Then, the next type of theories were the structural theories. Under these, the two important theories were the differential association theory and the anomy theory. The differential association theory was given by Sutherland in the year 1939. Sutherland highlighted the crime as an outcome of the partnership with social influences of the criminalistics norms. The anomy theory was put forward by Merton in the year 1938. According to this theory, crime was a result of the hassle caused by the incoherence between cultural goals and the institutionalized methods for accomplishing those goals. The next category of sociological theories were the subcultural theories that included the differential opportunity theory given by Cloward and Ohlin in the year 1960. This theory dealt with the differences in legitimate and illegitimate ways to achieve success. The next was the delinquent subculture theory given by Cohen in the year 1955. This theory elaborated the idea of the dismissal of dominant values and development of delinquent values. Lastly, Thorsten Selin gave the cultural conflict theory in the year 1938. He proposed that crime is caused by a combination of biological, sociological, psychological and economic factors. With these sociological theories, the emphasis shifted from the personality of the criminal to the social locale of the criminal. It is a branch of sociology that is associated with the investigation of crime scientifically. It aims to study the origin and causes of crime so as to establish a relation as to what factors led to the deviant behavior of the criminal. That is the offender solely accountable for the felonious act committed, or did the society and the immediate environment around the offender contributed to it? This critical analysis also paves way for the course of action to be taken, that is, reformation or the extent of punishments to be given to prevent further such behavior. In accordance with the nature and extent of work, criminal anthropology can be dealt with in three ways: general, special and practical. The general aspect of criminal anthropology deals with all the known facts pertaining to crime, classification and summary. This forms the basis for the next step in the analysis of crime. The special aspect includes investigation of individual criminals or offenders, their physical and biological aspects, their psychological well-being, their surroundings, etc., to consider and elaborate the cause of crime. Lastly, the practical aspect is concerned with the methods and institutions for repression and further prevention of crime. Thus, criminal anthropology forms a crucial criteria in criminal investigations and can aid in criminal jurisdiction. Dear students, after being acquainted with the different theories of criminology, let us now learn about the importance of these theories. The theories that deal with the criminal behavior govern and aid the criminal justice system. Criminal justice is a practice that is driven by science and theory, that is, biology, chemistry, physics, etc., along with criminology and sociology. All of these fields are motivated through the application of theory, which has been put forward through the scientific methods. This theory is assembled over a period of time through the application of multiple research and a detailed analytical data to support the hypothesis. In addition, different types of theories state different types of factors that result in commission of crime. Therefore, the investigating officials cannot and should not focus on only type of criminal theory. Rather, they should critically analyze all the facts and situations prevailing when the individual had committed the crime. An amalgamation of well-worked criminological theories and a thorough investigative trial will aid the decision-making and rehabilitation program in the court of law. Crime is defined as a deviant behavior that violates law and poses the offender for punishment under the court of law. Scholars around the world have postulated different theories to support this criminal behavior and the different types of factors that contribute in the commission of crime. These theories targets why individuals commit crimes and why they behave in a particular manner in certain situations. There are three broad theoretical models of criminal behavior: psychological models, sociological models, and biological models. Further, the classical and neoclassical theories, economic theory and geographical also exist. The importance of theories exploring the relationship between crime and individual personality, social factors, cognition and developmental factors is far-fetched. With all these information, here we come to the end of today's lecture. Do keep in mind what we have discussed today. This is time for your self-study. If you want to learn more for enhancing your knowledge, you may log on to our website www.cec.nic.in for multiple choice questions, quiz and LORs. Till then, keep studying. Goodbye.